Hi, I thought I'd just try and put together a quick talk through the paddle, not by way of putting any people off or gathering interest, but just to sort of say what to expect. So this is Jubilee Park in Leicester Forest East, not too far away from junction 21 on the motorway. This is where we'll meet up in the morning. This is probably one of the longest bits of portaging, just to sort of get from the car park down to the river. So this is part of the River Soar. Get on generally here or here. We're going to head up the river this way. This is the sense that feeds in at the very end. So yeah, launching from here, to zoom out a bit, you can see this is quite a nice little twisty river. A bit difficult to get the scale. Probably sort of mile and a bit or so of twisty bends, and we come to the this big bridge. It's one of the places where the River Soar and the canal are very close to each other, and if we want to, on the return, we can always jump off the canal onto the river and paddle back upriver. Slightly less far, but harder paddling upriver. Anyway, we stay on the river here on this side. This probably indicates a blockage in the middle of summer where it gets a bit windy. And then we'll sort of come along to this part of Leicester, which is called Aylstone Meadows. Generally, there's a left turn here to go to Weir. Not really recommended. It sort of pushes you into the walls and the shrubbery, and it's got a sort of corrugated edge. Okay, and eat kayak if there's lots of water, but other than that, probably best to stay away. So there's two general exits. One here on the corner. There's only real space for sort of one boat to get in and out at a time. Not terribly easy, but not too bad either. Or we can paddle down here under this little bridge, under this bridge, and get to the bank here on the left. And then it's a portage back up along here or on wheels. Maybe split 50-50 depending on how many people are carrying wheels with and want to carry. But the idea is, either way, we sort of get back on the River Soar, stroke Byam, still the Soar around here. Again, it's sort of one canoe at a time, just a bit of a bank and a bit slippy the last time I tried. So this stretch can be a bit narrow, shallow, overgrown. You tend to get pushed to the right a bit by trees. But it's, yeah, as long as there's water there, it's generally fine. We come to the old railway bridge. Looks strangely out of place. This little bit of water here is a bit shallow. Fair chance we might do a bit of grounding of bottom of boats there. Following around, there's tyre swings sort of area here. It's only, again, really of significance because this bit can be a little bit shallow where it's a bit wider. Other than that, it's fairly gentle, easy paddling. Whizzing off down. So again, another little pinch point here between the Grand Union Canal and the River Soar. But this time we'll carry on the left, stay on the river. Underneath this bridge here, just generally below the waterline, there's a couple of old bridge supports. So we either need to keep sort of in the middle or far left, just to be sure we don't sort of hit something underneath us. And then following on round, this area is generally fine, but can be prone to a few fishermen. It's quite a sort of popular area, either on this side or over here. But we carry on the left. This is back onto the former Grand Union Canal. Freeman's Lock. This is the one I was there in January, and they were clearing out the lock. There's quite a lot of swans here. I have seen boats go down this, but it's fairly steep and a bit of a drop, with a usually fairly shallow bit of water on the top, given the width of it. Purely personal choice. And this exciting building over here is the Leicester City Football Ground. So less said about that, the better. So we carry on along here. This area is called the Leicester Mile. There's a Leicester Rowing Club that are based, I think, in this building. So they tend to use this stretch for doing 1 mile sprints and slow turns. We go left up here. It's kind of inner city type paddling, simple enough. A couple of slightly longer under roadwork tunnels. Depending how tall you are, it's a bit of a head ducking sort of exercise. Not too bad, and a couple of smaller ones, and another one that comes out here. So carrying on heading north, we come to another weir. I've not seen any real way of getting down this particular one safely in a canoe, probably not in a kayak either for that matter. So we carry on round and we get to this spot. Okay, so come to this point. There's a slippery bank going down from the canal down to the river. Getting 1 or 2 people at a time at most. Can be a bit nattily depending on the time of year, so it's a bit careful, but we should be fine. Just here is a purpose-built seal ramp for, I guess, generally kayaks, but if anyone wants to throw their boat down, they're more than welcome to, and we'll gather below to take some photographs. Generally though, we're going to follow the course of the river. Lots of bridges, not that much as feature-wise. Along here is the Space Centre somewhere. There it is, that's the National Space Centre. Another weir, this one generally wide, foot high maybe. If there's enough water, very straightforward just to go straight over. Alternatively, obviously we can get out of the lock on this side. This is the stretch that sort of leads up from here to Birstall, and if we're feeling a bit pooped, we can sort of do a U-ey here and head up down Grand Union Canal and back. Or the original plan is to sort of head up the Grand Union. It's probably the longest stretch where we sort of go up and back on the same bit of water. Not much by way features really to describe. Bridges, more bridges. But a little bit difficult to get scale on these things. So yeah, we'll come to this little bit up here. Again, depending what the water's like, pop in here for a bit, paddle on this field. Other than that, we'll sort of probably take the left turn here. It's an interesting, fairly short, narrow weir here at Birstall. It's only 3-4 feet wide, one boat down, if it looks safe enough. And this bit down here is a bit of a gathering of flotsam and jetsam, so it's not brilliant, but it just poodles out and comes out here. Alternatively, we just stay on the canal and come out at the same place. And this is where I suspect we'll probably stop for midday, lunch, turnaround time. As far north as I'd expect we'd probably get. And then after a suitable break, leg stretch, we'll come back down. We'll take this little bit on the left heading back. There's not a great deal of difference, but it just comes up behind a weir here. A little opportunity for a bit of a play if there's water coming down, although it can be a bit rocky underneath. And we'll get out just about here, very short portage back onto the canal, and we'll follow it back down again the way we came. This is probably the least interesting part. Come back to that weir and stay on the left this time, coming back up the Grand Union Canal. Bridge, there's a lock. There's a couple of little turns up here. They don't really go anywhere, but again, in a kayak there's a nice little chute on one of them just to sit in and play and get pushed down the water. Failing that, we just carry on following the course of the Grand Union as it spits up from the Soar, back past the Leicester City football ground. Tiny little offcut to the left here, sort of small weir. It's never really looked like it's been worth trying to come down that one, so I tend to go to this lock. It's a fairly easy get out and back on again. Follow the course of the canal back down. There's a little right turn here, offshoot, that goes in front of, I think it's a car garage or something nowadays. But I've never really managed to get all the way back round onto the river. It's just too overgrown and shallow, so probably won't bother. We'll just carry on down here to get another lock at Ayleston Mill. Quite a handy parking place here for anybody local wants to get on there. Following it round, bum, bum, bum. We come back to the long bridge that might have paddled down at the beginning. Another nice car park there, although a very small one. I use this one quite a bit because from here you can go 1, 2, 3, 4 different directions at least, although that one is upriver. Never really tried that. I don't think it actually goes far enough to make it worth the effort. It's still quite a convenient bit. Anyway, we stick on the canals, another lock. There's a few locks along this stretch. This takes us back to the bridge where we could jump back onto the River Soar and head back up river, or just follow it around, which I currently propose to do. A few more locks to get around and about. All the portages are the lock plus or minus a couple of metres, fairly straightforward stuff. We come around this bend, and just before we get to this lock, Whetstone Lane lock, we sort of jump out of the river, or jump out just on the bank there. Portage from sort of this little bit to get onto the River Sence. Getting off the Sence here, generally from this side, it's a couple of foot drop without any great mechanism for doing so, so it's again one person at a time, a bit messy, and as soon as you get on the water you're generally under trees, branches and various other chuff for this little bit here. So it can be overgrown, a little difficult, but I'll try and see if I can cut some woodwork down for the actual day on that one. So we follow the River Sence. It is quite a small river, generally going with the flow. We'll get through it okay. There's a couple of bits where it has been narrow in the past, sort of this bit, but I've already cut that back a little bit earlier this year. Interesting sort of the old railway bridge again here, quite heavily graffitied underneath. We sort of zigzag around here, follow it round. I think somewhere around here, possibly here, is a tight bend, and again it's a complete blockage at the moment as the tree's fallen across, so I might have to get out, carry and back in again, and then we'll just follow this last bit round to get back to the start. This is Jubilee Park where the cars are parked, so hopefully that gives us some idea of what to expect. Thank you, bye.